Hi, and welcome to What's the Worst That Could Happen. I'm your host, Abby Whitaker, and today I'm so excited to have one of my besties, Miranda Mcclennan, on the potty. And it's super exciting, actually. I'm super excited about this conversation. I think you will be too, because it's a little bit of a change of pace than usual, because Miranda actually is not currently in ownership of a business, but she has lots of amazing things to talk about, tips. I'm excited to share what she has to share. I would love to pass her over, pass you over to her so she can introduce herself.
Thanks, Abs. Yeah, so obviously I have owned businesses in the past. My background is actually in business management and HR was my major. And although I've enjoyed that, I definitely love the operation side of business and particularly like the startup and scale aspect of any business. But as you said, I'm not working at the moment as an employee or a business owner, which is a really great change of pace for me. It's definitely allowed me to kind of reevaluate where I've been, where I'm at the moment, physically and, mentally and that sort of thing. And then what my next steps are for 2025, which is exciting.
So exciting. So what are you doing with your time at the moment?
I wish I could say I was doing nothing, but I do serve on the board of a local charity. So Wishlist is our Sunshine Coast Health Foundation, which is great. So there's quite a lot involved with that. I'm probably a very proactive board member in the terms of that I really like to get involved with some more of the daily operations, not just attending a board meeting once a month. And then I'm also one of the executive committee members for the Sunshine Coast Young Chamber. So as head of events, obviously event planning, I think it's 2 or 3 events most months. We've got our Christmas party coming up shortly, which is exciting. But yeah, there's lots going on. I've also really enjoyed, for a change, being that friend that people can rely on. Like if they need help, if they need me to fly up and look after their babies, happy to do that, because I think for the last maybe 13, 14 years, I've certainly been that friend that, hey, if something's wrong, call me. But I have definitely not had the time or the space to be that person that can, drop around a dinner if you're, not feeling great or whatever. So I've definitely been leaning into being the best friend that I can be, and sister and daughter. So that's been very rewarding.
I love it. And so I think in this day and age, it's really brave to be able to slow down. What kind of brought that on? And for you personally, how was that like affecting you, benefiting you, etc.?
I was tossing out whether to kind of be really candidly open and honest with you today. And I'm definitely happy to do so, because you're probably the only person I'm comfortable to do that with.
But just me and my 17,000 listeners.
That's so true. But no, my partner and I had an ectopic pregnancy in June. It was a surprise pregnancy, and it definitely knocked me. I was fortunate that I knew what an ectopic pregnancy was, but my partner didn't. And it obviously means immediate life-saving surgery for myself. And the recovery from that, it probably took the last 6 months, if I'm being honest. But in parallel with that, I well and truly had burnout from high-performing corporate life. I was working for a brilliant local organisation here on the coast, HeliMods, and I think I just am one of those people, it's probably a female characteristic, that put so much pressure on themselves to be everything to everybody. And when I had this surgery, and obviously they've said, like, you have to rest, like you cannot go back to work at this date. I genuinely thought that I'd be back at work the following Monday. I actually stopped and thought about it and realised that a lot of the time women don't generally stop until they're on maternity leave. And even then, you're busy preparing for that next stage of your life. So I actually took it as an opportunity and thought, look, I'm actually going to sort myself out. I'm going to take the time to figure out what is it that actually fills my cup. How do I want to spend my time? Because I don't want to just keep climbing this ladder that I don't even know where it's going or if it's where I want to be. So the last 6 months, I've certainly invested in a lot of time with a bunch of different professionals, whether it's working with my psychologist, acupuncturist, Chinese medicine, doing all of the things to kind of like regulate myself, because I am fully aware that the level that I was operating at, is just not sustainable. And I think that's the case for a lot of women, particularly in our age group, where we've been sold that whole hustle, 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 girl boss kind of thing. And I know we talk about it a lot. I hear it a lot. But I really got to the point where I'm like, wow, I'm feeling the physical effects of that message for the last 10 years. And I don't want to live the next 10 years in the same way.
Yeah, totally. And I think, I mean, I was just talking about this on the earlier podcast, is just listening to your body and kind of like, how can we listen to our body and what is it telling us? It's just so important.
And we ignore it. Like, how often do you catch up with a girlfriend and all you want to say to her is, babe, you need to slow down. Not going to rude. But babe, you need to slow down. Like, I love you and I respect you fully for what you're doing. But I love you so much that I just want you to take a step back, because you'll be able to sustain it for far longer if you are actually making that time, to do the things that you like, whether it is go to Pilates, 2 times a week rather than just wishing that you could go at least once. Yeah, listening, but then actually actioning that is 2 very, very different things.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of work. And I remember when I hit burnout, last year I went to my nutritionist, but she's like kind of like a natural person as well. And she just said, yeah, she's holistic.
Holistic. That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah. And she basically said to me, like, you've been running like the engine nonstop for 5 to 10 years. It's not just going to take a week or 2 weeks to like refresh.
A holiday's not going to fix it, babe.
No. She was like, it's going to take 6, 12 months, 24 months. Like, and I think obviously it's such a privilege that we're able to choose to stop and kind of like make that brave decision. But I do think it is a really brave thing to do, because I think that so much of as business-minded people and high achievers and perfectionists, I think that it's scary to stop doing all of those things that we know that we're good at and that we're validated for.
Yeah.
To slow down and to have the judgment of other people, particularly men. What's your experience? Or
100%. I feel like even my whole identity was wrapped up in being this person that, is always doing crazy things and achieving things that, maybe someone our age shouldn't. And I think I definitely put my entire worth into that. And so when I did take that break, and I definitely noticed it when people would, and it was really nice, they'd reach out and say, how are you going? What are you up to now? I found myself scrambling to make an excuse as to how I was feeling my days. Because we did buy a house in June and I've definitely been spending my time renovating it. But I was kind of trying to validate the fact that, oh, no, I'm doing this and this and this. And yes, it was true. But I actually wish I could just say, I'm just actually not doing anything right now. Like, I definitely noticed that. And I was trying to shut her down halfway, like through the sentence, and being like, no, you need to stop kind of cultivating, like adding to that culture of always being busy. And I really appreciate it when I've had friends like yourself, say to me, like, I got a Christmas card last week actually, and it was a girlfriend, and then she wrote it, I really admire you for the fact that you have taken a step backwards so that you can actually look forward. She's like, you don't see that. And I didn't even think of it like that. For me, it was like a survival kind of thing initially, being like, I just need to tap out for a little bit. But it's been honestly the best thing I've done for my health, my mental health, my physical health. God, my skin is so much better. My relationship is better. I feel like I've, reconnected with so many friends and even family members that I just haven't really had the time to spend quality time with before. So I'm aware that's a very privileged position to do that, but I feel like I've almost earned it from working as hard as I have for so long. Yeah, and obviously a really, really supportive partner. I wouldn't have been able to do it without Robbie. He's been incredible. But yeah, I'd encourage everyone to take a step back just for a short period of time, whether that's just saying no to a couple of commitments that's kind of coming up, or just putting your family first for a change. Like, I know that's really hard when people have businesses and families as well, but there's a time for everything, and I do believe in seasons. So I think you just need to go into that next chapter, or, starting 2025, for example, just being really aware and really purposeful with how you're going to spend that time.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I think it's just like reevaluating your priorities and what's important, and is like the work you're doing or that validation you're getting more important than having your health, for example. It's not. Exactly.
I mean, I've learned the hard way. Like it sucks that I've had to have something as drastic as, going through an ectopic pregnancy and like the physical element of burnout. But in saying that, it is a blessing, to be completely honest. Like, it's definitely a blessing to have gone through that when we did, because I'd hate to think what my experience of, falling pregnant in the future, while operating at, the level that I was, that is not sustainable, and that is not how I want to spend that chapter. Like that would be such a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you got plans for the future in terms of, are you still just taking more time?
So I decided that I'd wait till the new year to kind of see what I was going to do. But then a role had recently popped up on Ethical Jobs. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
It's like a Seek, but for, ethical jobs for people like not-for-profits and things like that. And they advertise there, because I've got a lot of friends in that space, and they've told me like, oh, that's how I got my dream role and whatever. And I'd been looking at Seek for the past maybe 2 months, and there's not a single thing that popped up. I'm just thinking, oh God, I'm just going to be making someone really rich if I do that job. Or like, it just, there's no
didn't feel like
alignment.
Yeah.
I just thought, what's the purpose of that business?
Just leaving one job to go to another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing was making me all warm and fuzzy inside. And so jumped on Ethical Jobs, and this one particular organisation really spoke to me, and I applied, and I've since had an interview, which is great, because I've never actually had to interview for a role before. I've kind of met someone, or they've heard of me, or they've been a client kind of thing, and then they've offered me something. So that was an interesting experience, being on the other side of the table. But it was really great. Actually, I really loved it. So hopefully good things come from that.
Amazing. I love it. So changing the pace a little bit, at the start of this conversation, you said that you love the operations side of business. You love business management. You've worked in HR. What's kind of your tips, I guess, for somebody who is potentially like wanting to start up a business? What's your tips for them? And then maybe after that we can go into maybe some tips for people who are operating businesses, and like things that you've noticed within businesses. Because I know that on top of working for specific companies and things, you've also done consulting. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. So tips for someone looking to go into business, probably first and foremost, if you're going into business, you obviously know that industry or that service very, very well, and you feel very confident in that. My first tip would be that you actually find people that you can count on to help you at least get to know some of the other aspects of business. So we'll use, Inflow Pilates for an example. You might be the world's best Pilates teacher, but all of a sudden you're now expecting yourself to then know how to do payroll and marketing and managing a physical premise. Like, there's a lot of things that 6 months ago might not have been on your position description. So I think by investing in really solid people, whether it's a business coach or a consultant that can kind of help you kind of through, I would actually, rather than it being like a long-term service agreement, I'd actually look at it and say, hey, can you teach me this? And then at least if you can kind of understand how that goes, then you might be able to employ someone later down the track. But I'm a big believer in the fact that you kind of need to know what you're paying someone for, because I've, obviously with the HR background, I've certainly seen people take advantage of business owners when they're saying, oh, but it takes me 30 hours to do this. And then it's not until you actually really get into it that you're like, well, actually we can streamline this, we can automate this. Like, you should know that. You shouldn't be counting on me to do that. I think that's really important.
Yeah,
That's
so
the biggest reason.
kind of like, I'll always use this example as, say, with accounting, right? Like, now my businesses, I have accountants, I have bookkeepers.
Yeah.
But it's so important to know, like, your numbers. You can't just, like, throw all your stuff at them and just hope that it works out, right? You
It certainly happens. There's definitely businesses that run that way.
Yeah.
But, like, how crazy do you think that you're going to bed at night being like, am I profitable?
Yeah.
I don't actually know.
I actually recently had a friend call me and she was like, I was just wondering, like, with the accountants, like what, like they want to charge me for this and I don't really understand. And I was like, well, are you like on a retainer with them? Are you just paying them to do your tax at the end of the year? Are you like what are you actually doing with them? And she's like, I just don't really know.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, okay, well, it's not their responsibility to like teach you what,
Yeah.
like what's what. Like you need to know those things before you just hand it off to someone so you can advocate for yourself and your business and understand what's going on, and then obviously lean on them for support or higher level things that come up. But even when higher level things do come up, it's like, understand it.
I do get it though. Like I do understand why people are so then quick to, just pay someone to do something because it can be very overwhelming. I totally get why people just put their head in the sand sometimes and don't take the time to actually understand, their tax obligations or something like that. But again, just making sure you've got the right people in your corner is a huge, huge, huge advantage and way to level up right from the very beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Any other tips?
Oh, I could probably talk about this forever. Oh God, I'm always about people, to be honest. Like, I'm very, very. I mean, when I have worked with clients in the past, and they've said, "Oh, I need to hire someone to do this and this and this and this," I generally sit them down and say, "What kind of lifestyle do you want? Like, what do you want from this business? What's the purpose? Is it that you want to spend every Friday at home with your children? Is it that you just want to hustle for 10 years and retire at 45 and like, that's a great goal. Like, but what is it actually? And let's be really realistic about it, because I do that because if they say, oh, I just need a team member to do this and I'll hire someone to do this, and all of a sudden your week is actually spent managing people. And going back to the inflow example, if you're just the world's best Pilates instructor and then all of a sudden you found yourself managing a team of people that have all sorts of requirements and, little ways that they need to be managed or looked after or taken care of, then you've all of a sudden missed your kind of whole purpose of why you went into business. And people are really difficult. They're really complex, particularly if you have a hire that maybe isn't quite aligned with what you're doing. The long-term effect of that it's enormous. So, yeah, my tip is just really have an open and honest conversation with yourself and probably a partner as well. Like, what do we want? Do we know actually the consequences of, say, work cover or something going badly? Because I think a lot of people don't understand those obligations as well. That's really scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. So surround yourself with great people. Know if you're working with mentors or coaches, like learn everything rather than just
getting them to do something for you.
Yeah.
Actually use it as an opportunity to learn from them. Because obviously, I mean, if they're a business coach worth their weight, they'll be kind of feeding you words of wisdom and you can be picking that up and taking that with you. There's no reason why I'm just working with them for 2 hours a week for 6 weeks and then that transaction's over. I'd rather be thinking of it as, okay, well, what can I learn from them in that amount of time?
Yeah.
How am I going to actually, get a bang for my buck? Because these guys are really expensive. What can I learn from them? What can they teach me? How is that going to make me a better business owner, better leader, make me a far more socially responsible business leader? Like, there's lots of things that you can take from that interaction.
Yeah, definitely. And so when someone is starting a business, because you've worked with a lot of businesses, what do you think are things that are important in terms of like what they should consider or be doing?
Like from the very beginning, or?
I think like this question actually probably applies to people who own businesses already and then also people who are starting.
To be honest, I think probably personal development. Like if the leader is confident in what they do and they're continually obviously progressing in their own learning, in their own development, that honestly trickles down. Like it just will. There's no way that you can't, you know what I mean? Like if you're learning more, then the people that are in your proximity are going to learn from that as well, as long as you're obviously displaying the right kind of behaviours.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, it's a real shame when people get so busy that they stop investing in themselves. And I know that you're definitely one of those people that continually invest in themselves, and I'd say that's a pretty obvious reason as to why your businesses have been so successful, because you're not just stagnant, you're continually leveling up every single time. Like that's a huge benefit, because a lot of people do get stuck in the weeds with the daily operation and they don't look ahead, or they don't look at, okay, I don't have the skill set to reach that level. What do I need to fill that gap?
Yeah.
Is it, a course in this, or is it, more professional development in that industry that might, kind of help me over here? Is it, a great hire that I could actually learn from as well? So what I do see, certainly with some clients in the past, they might be, a seasoned business owner. They might have a business that they've had for 10, 15, 20 years. If you're not making some really key hires almost at that executive level that are smarter than you, that do have so much experience, you're obviously paying them quite a lot of money. Don't treat that hire as like a set and forget. Actually use that in itself as an opportunity to learn more from them, because they've probably got, 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience in another organization that you can leverage. So it is really sad when people aren't taking advantage of that. Like, you've got them there as a resource. Use them.
And I mean, even in like a business like Inflow, when I first opened in the Sunshine Coast 7 years ago, I think I might have taught about 50 classes altogether in my whole Pilates teaching career. Like, I hadn't taught a lot. I didn't have like huge qualifications. Actually, if I'm really honest, I didn't really actually ever officially finish my reformer certificate. Like,
I love that.
I mean, I had insurance, but I sort of like faked it till you make it. But one of the first things I did was when I hired instructors. Obviously, I was teaching a lot at the start, so I learnt a lot. But when I hired instructors, I actually hired people who were better than me and had more qualifications, but like generally had skills in Pilates that I didn't have,
possess,
and also that I admired. And then I actually said, I was open about it. Like, I was like, look, you're more qualified than me. I want to learn from you. And I did like one-on-ones with them and all of that sort of stuff. So then, and then I did all extra courses and stuff over the years. But I mean, at the start, that was not the case at all. And I think, that was a smart thing to do. And also, I guess, just not being ashamed.
No, you shouldn't.
That I wasn't as experienced or as good at those things.
But how smart is it that you were able to put your ego aside for a moment and actually just realize that, well, my strengths lie here, which they probably don't possess if they're not going after, creating a Pilates studio. So I do wish more business owners, I think it's two things. Perhaps it's ego, and then perhaps it's a trust thing. I think a lot of business owners think, no one knows this better than I do. I've been doing it every day for da-da-da-da. But doing that as they have been is not going to get them to where they need to go. So at one point, they actually need to step back and trust in that person that they have hired to, do what they're good at. There actually comes that time. It's difficult.
And I actually also, something that I think I've learnt over the years as well and have thought about recently is that in different industries, like I'm going to use the Pilates industry as an example, it kind of touches on something you spoke about before, is say if you did want to start a studio, I think having really honest conversation with yourself about why, because there are so many amazing Pilates instructors who would just be so much better off if they just stayed as instructors rather than putting the stress on themselves to have the responsibilities of the team, a lease, all of those kinds of things because they're actually just really good at Pilates.
I think probably a bit of naivety too. I think a lot of people that go into business don't realize just how much there is to manage on a daily basis. It's hard. It is very hard.
And I think that sort of also comes down to the glorification of business and how people kind of believe in yourself, do this. But it's do you actually want that? Do you actually want your days to be spent doing all of that stuff that comes with a business? Or do you just really love teaching Pilates? And like either of the answers is right or wrong. But I think that it's just one of those things that's like seems really glamorous and cool and validating. And
Yeah, no, you're right. It comes back to your purpose. Like, why are you doing it?
Exactly.
What does it actually mean to you? What does it give you? Whether it's time or money or impact in the community. Like, there's a lot of different reasons why people go into business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to interject there.
No, I love it.
Your tips.
That's how we always talk.
Yeah, I know. And okay, so one thing I really love about you, Miranda, is that the way that you like move in business and in your life, from what I've observed over the last year, is that you sit on a lot of like a few, not a lot, like a few chosen boards and committees and things like that. And it's something that I see you giving like a lot back to these things. Why do you do that? Like, what's your why behind that?
Yeah, there's probably a few different reasons why. I guess I was fortunate to be raised in a family that my grandpa in particular, he is probably the most generous. My family are by far the most generous people I've ever met in my life. And they've always been involved with community, like whether it's, on a steering committee to get a community bank in our region or, the local show committee, like a bunch of different things. My grandpa was a counsellor for many years. We've always been taught that giving back is just part and parcel of, being a citizen and being part of this community that we're in. So that's probably definitely the first one, because I feel like that's just inherently in me. The second reason would be, in my 20s, I lived overseas. I was in Italy for 5 years. And although I love that chapter and it was great, and I'm so lucky to have been able to, lived a completely different life for some time. I lived in northern Italy and we actually spoke Italian and German. So English was basically forgotten kind of thing. So it was incredibly isolating. I didn't feel myself. I didn't have, a really great community around me. I was known as the too friendly Australian that, just because like it's very often very easy for me to talk to people, and over there they're just not like that. They're very closed-minded, at least not open-minded to have a new friend, or they weren't even comfortable speaking English. And my German and Italian were definitely better when I drank some alcohol, so I was very limited in my interactions. And I, honest to God, craved community. I craved my friends. That was the whole reason that I moved home. It was just because I missed my family and that feeling of belonging. And so when I arrived back in Australia, I was kind of figuring out where I wanted to be. My parents were over in Perth. My sister was just about to move to the Sunshine Coast, and I did uni here for 3 or 4 years in my teenage years. So I thought, well, I'll just start there and see where I go. And then, just kind of found my feet, felt really comfortable being back here. It definitely changed a lot, a lot more industry. There's a lot more going on. It's very entrepreneurial here, which I really love. I think there's something like more small businesses on the Sunshine Coast per capita than any other region in Australia.
Wow, I did not know that. But doesn't surprise me.
Oh, it just like sets my heart on fire. Yeah. Like, that's great.
Love it.
And quickly kind of got involved with the Young Chamber. I was told to go to an event, and it was just as they were founded. And it was just a room of young people that were either, hustling hard in their roles, or, interested in starting a business, or they owned a small business. And I just found that's kind of where I wanted to be, because I definitely didn't want to be partying and things like that, because obviously in your early 20s, that's how you kind of make friends. I wasn't in that era. A lot of my friends were having kids and things. So I was like, well, I don't really know where I belong. This is really hard because, I was just trying to settle back in. And definitely found my feet in that group of people. And then obviously me being the enthusiastic person I am, would go to like every event and would like tell all of my friends about it. And then we would go. So they very quickly asked if I wanted to come on board as an ambassador. And then I guess you call it work grab, where you're just like, oh, I'll help with this and I'll help with that and I'll do that. And then before I knew it, I was an executive committee member and kind of leading it. So that was really great, and I've loved that. I've loved the fact that, even some of my best friends are from Young Chamber. I've met them at events. So,
Well, I actually met you in this very office
oh, it's true.
at a Young Chamber event.
That's true. I actually forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was girl crushing hard. Yeah, that's a good point. But like, you just, I don't know. I've always found that if you are doing the things that you love, the rest kind of follows, whether that is, you know, a role or people or success. Like, I think that that's the best way to go. But then that's how I kind of got involved with Wishlist as well, because I think some of the Wishlist team had come to one of our events, and I'd never heard of them before. And my grandmother actually had a head-on car collision in 2002 when she was over in New Zealand, and she found herself in hospital for, I think it was nearly 10 months. So I had lived experience of needing to rely on a service like Wishlist, but she was airlifted to Brisbane not long after. So, you know, I remember staying in hotels with my mum and my sister, and our life was certainly thrown upside down from that experience. Like, we moved from Townsville back to the cattle property in Mount Perry to help look after her. And so that definitely changed the course of my life. So I think when I heard the Wishlist story about them supporting, you know, patients and their families here locally on the Sunshine Coast, I just thought, wow, that's something I really want to be a part of. And then again, it was just me going to events and telling people to come along, and then I just put my hand up to help, and then a board position opened. And the CEO at the time, Lisa Rowe, had reached out and said, Miranda, like, you're so proactive with everything that you do. Would you jump on our board? You'd be our youngest serving member. And I was like, absolutely. And it's been the best experience since.
Amazing. I love that so much. When you relate that back to business owners or just people in the community, but maybe like related a bit more to business owners, like, how important do you think it is to be involved in the community, especially in a place like the Sunshine Coast when you're owning your own business, involved in the community, giving back, that sort of thing? I'd love for you to talk on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's really important to me. I truly think that the future of business involves far more social responsibility than we have at the moment. I think COVID maybe has something to do with that. You know, I feel like it isolated people for a time. I mean, it did bring us together in other ways, but I also feel that it did push us back a little bit in some ways as well. But like, God, the power of, you know, having a purpose of having an impact in the community in some way, shape or form, it's so integral to business. Like, it just is. Like, if you actually sat down and wrote down some of the most popular, you know, businesses on the Sunshine Coast, I can almost guarantee that they have an element of their business which is, you know, philanthropic. It might be their team have days put aside each year where they, you know, go to Wishlist Giving Day and they'll jump on the phones and do that. Or you know, they might go plant trees with another organisation. Like, there's definitely some elements of giving back to the community in some way, shape or form. I think if you've got a purpose that runs so clearly through your culture, but particularly through the leader, because it's always, you know, leader driven, profits follow. And like that, there's so much research in that. Like, there absolutely is so much research in that. So I would love to think that, you know, ROI, return on investment, I think return on community should be a focus for businesses. Like, rather than always having a dollar value next to something, like, what is the return on community? What impact did we have this year when we're doing our financial review or, you know, things like that? Like, what did we actually do? How did we help people? What is our business? What is the point of it? Where are we going to drive that? Because that's far more impactful. And I think when people get burnout in particular, a lot of the time it's because they're doing things that they're not particularly passionate about, right? Like, and again, that's the trap that a lot of business owners fall into when they find themselves doing all these different things that they didn't want to do. Whereas if they just followed, you know, their passion and their purpose, and a lot of time that is giving back, whether it is mentoring someone, like, it's not always just, you know, a financial transaction. It could be that I want to teach, you know, the next generation of Pilates instructors, you know, how to be better and inspire people to move. And in turn, I've then just made, you know, a whole lot of people on Sunshine Coast healthier, happier, and stronger. Like, that's the impact that you're going to have.
Yeah, definitely.
That's huge.
And I think that doing those things, like, as you said, as a leader, not only does it impact the community, but it can also impact your, like, your community inside like your workplace culture and that sort of thing as well. Like, I mean, a small example is when we did the Bound event.
Yeah.
I had some of the instructors join us at that event who had experienced like that sort of thing, and I think it brought me closer to them and them closer to me, and like to kind of make them feel like a bit more related, and I think
Seen and heard.
And yeah, it's just like there's a bit of a ripple effect, and I think that when you work for someone who is doing those things, even if you leave that organization, that's going to stay with you. And then whether you go and start your own business or you go work for someone else, like you've got that ingrained in you that you really like that and you know how good it felt, and then it can like ripple out to all these other places, and it's just making the world a better place, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it humanizes you, because I think a lot of the time, if you haven't owned a business, sometimes it can feel like a business owner is far away in that, you know, you can't replicate that, or I don't know.
Pedestal you a little bit.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. And I think, you know, by showing them what you care about and where you want to put your time and your money and your effort, that is the easiest way for anyone in the community, whether that's, you know, potential employees as well, like team members. It really highlights you as a person that cares about so much more than just making money. Like, and it's my personal thing is that I don't want to work for someone that just wants to get rich. Like, that's just not the way that I ever want to work. That's why you've never seen me at any of the big fours. Like, that's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's just the easiest way. Same with like friendship. And that's why you find so many people that you get along with when you go to the gym, when you know what I mean? When you're going out for dinner, because that's like for like. People like the similar things. So obviously you're going to have a lot more in common with those people.
Birds of a feather.
100%. So if you're wanting to attract a really great workforce, do the things that you would naturally do and that you enjoy and that make you feel fulfilled, because that's what's going to attract everyone else that has those exact same values.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's going to like ripple out to everyone else.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you think about, like, not bad-mouthing businesses, but do you think that there's longevity for those businesses who don't do that? Or what do you think is the future in terms of like social responsibility and consciousness for businesses?
I've seen so many people have incredible businesses and they're not focused on the right things. But you know what? Like there's different reasons for different things, right? Like everyone loves what they love, and that's fine. I just know that me personally, and that's probably a lot to do with the way that I was raised and the friends that I have and the company I keep, I really want to be known as doing the right thing, who cares about people, who cares about my community. So for me in particular, that's a huge, huge, huge importance for what I do every day. But I suppose, and this is quite high level, I think people assume a lot of the time that like the government will help with that and the government will provide funding for that. And I really truly think that people just think, oh no, it's fine. Like, you know, we pay taxes and the government helps. Like that's not possible. The government cannot continue to hand out money to help every single thing. So I think it's so important that businesses understand the social responsibility that they have to actually make sure that organizations, you know, there's so many local ones that I could list, like, you know, Wishlist is one, but like there's Lily House and like there's all these local homelessness shelters and donations and like there's so many places that need help. And I think that business owners really need to realize that at one point or another, they actually do have a responsibility to help those in their community. I think that is the future. And I think we are getting that way. Like there's incredibly generous people here on the Sunshine Coast for sure. And we see that, you know, every single day. There's incredible sponsors. Like you yourself sponsor so many events that I go to, which is great. And you know, volunteer your time to help other things. Just even you doing that, others will look at that and think, okay, wow, I really need to step up my game. Like how can me and my team help a similar cause or have impact in the same way that you do?
Yeah.
So I think the more people that get involved, it's just going to create that change and have that ripple effect that you said.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. So when you look at businesses from the outside, what do you see as the most problematic things happening? And in your opinion, how can we change them?
It's very specific to each industry, I think. I think that people, generally speaking, I think that businesses have trouble implementing what they want to. Like, say they have a huge goal. I think they then have an issue translating that into, okay, what are the meaningful steps towards achieving that? Whether that gets lost in translation between departments and things like that, I definitely see that happen. And a lot of the time, when it does come to the review stage, it's like, oh, well, we fell short here. Like, why is that? And it's because, there wasn't an actual plan put in place. It was kind of half done. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues. I do think, and this is probably me wearing my HR hat for a moment, hiring the wrong people and not removing them fast enough is a huge issue. Like, I see that in every single business I've ever stepped into. You need to hire slow and fire fast. That's I've always said that. You need to get to know people on the way in, so that you already have that really great established relationship with them. But then the second that you think that, hey, something isn't quite right, there needs to be a conversation had. Like, I think in my personal life and then in business, far too many people are afraid of the hard conversation, and it's only detrimental. Like, prolonging it's only going to make it worse. It never makes it easier.
Yeah, you need to nip it in the bud.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think I've seen that hundreds of times where it just gets worse. There's no way it will get better. Once you've got one bad apple, it's just, it's so hard to contain after that. And you might have spent years, building up your culture and a reputation as well, right? Because internally and externally, you've projected to be this culture that, stands for this. So I do think that, not taking it more seriously is really harmful to businesses.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like, I always think of it like, you're making a cake and you've like done most of the ingredients, then you're putting the eggs in. And like when you don't put the egg in the cup first and then like you've put like the 12 eggs in and then the 13th one is like a rotten one.
Yeah.
It's like you have to start all over again.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just one little part, like one little ingredient.
And not to mention like potentially the financial implications. So I've seen it many, many times where, someone's had enough of their role or whatever, and then they just want to kind of cause trouble, and that's when then like some work cover kind of things come in, or I've seen it go so pear-shaped. So,
and it can ripple as well, right? Because it can like poison others around.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So bad.
And when someone has a bad taste in their mouth, it's really difficult to change that for sure.
And what I've found is everyone always looks for a bad guy. In my businesses, I've learnt that I'm fine with being the bad guy for the betterment of the business and the team.
Yeah.
But like everyone always just wants someone to blame, someone to
absolutely.
hate.
And like that's business owner life. And you as a business owner and within HR or management team, you cannot go back and then explain, oh, well, it's actually because this happened. Like, it's so unprofessional. You just have to let it be what it is. Yeah. And trust that, the people that you work with know that you have integrity, and, maybe the story that they've been told is far different from reality. I like to think that anyway. Like, I know there's certainly been some instances where I've had to, say, performance manage someone or whatever it might be. The story that I've heard back from that situation is vastly different to what's happened. But you just have to be fine with the fact that, okay, I'm definitely the monster in their story.
Yeah, definitely.
And just continue to be fine with it. And I know that, the people that I've worked with in that circle know me to be a very, high integrity person that certainly wouldn't have handled it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is what it is.
I think it's like keeping your side of the street clean.
Yes.
And I think like in a business sense, for me, something I've learnt is that when you are handling those types of situations, it is staying professional, still being warm and kind, but not leading with emotions, not blaming, not needing to be right, just stating the facts of what needs to happen next.
Which is very hard. Like,
very hard.
which is why people have HR teams that are trained in that sort of thing. But when I've seen leaders make decisions based on emotion, it never ends well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Never,
Never.
ever. Yeah.
I would
Take
agree.
a moment, take a beat, take a day, then reply, or then have the meeting. Yeah, definitely don't react on those
Yeah.
initial feelings.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So, okay, so I guess where I wanted to lead into now is we've given some like amazing tips. We've spoken about some amazing things that you can do as business owners and things that you don't want to do. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Oh gosh. I think my little final word of wisdom would be just to put yourself first for a change. Like I've really struggled with the feeling of being selfish and taking that break, to be completely honest. But it is hand on heart the best thing I've ever done for myself and, for my family, for my partner. Yeah, where I actually can't believe that I feel the way I do now because 6 months ago I was a very broken person, just trying to keep up with the grind, working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks for years. Like that's not okay. And I completely disregarded my own self-care and God, it's so detrimental. And then how far it actually affects every other part of your life. And it's taken, literally 6 months for me to rebuild my health.
Yeah.
To feel okay again, which is terrible. That's so sad.
I know. And it's actually really interesting because you just led that with, for me to be selfish. But then the thing is that it's what you, not what you, but like maybe in what the average norm perception of selfish is, where like not working, but actually working that much sounds like it was detrimental to your family and your life and other things in your life.
Absolutely.
So essentially like you were being selfish in those places, but those are not the places that, people acknowledge or notice.
Yeah.
And I think it's really great that you're bringing like attention to that, and that just in general, I feel like we're going into this phase, trend, I don't know, something, especially in maybe it's just the people I'm surrounding myself with. I'm not sure if it's just a general thing of like, it's actually okay to do that. And it's
too.
admired as well.
Yeah.
And like hustle culture it's
dead.
It's dead.
It's dead.
We're done with it. Thank you, next.
I agree. Trad wife life.
Yeah, trad wife life.
Kidding.
Just keep an eye out for Miranda and Abby's sourdough co.
God, that would be the best.
We could have eggs too. Maybe we could fit some chickens.
Oh, my cousins have a business that does that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree though. I'm so glad that tides are changing. And I've seen that, and same thing, a lot of the conversations that I'm having with friends and, people in my like business kind of life, which is great. I actually love that. Like I actually wish I could go back and talk to Miranda a couple of years ago and be like, you don't have to be busy all the time. You can actually just enjoy spending time with yourself, doing the things that you love, and that's still productive.
Yeah.
I think, everyone has this obsession with being productive, which I agree. Like as as a nation, we do have to have a certain level of productivity to be competitive for sure. But at the same time, it can't be to the detriment of, our health and our families. So I'm so here for everyone taking a step back. And I vow to be that friend at a coffee catch up to be like, babe, do you maybe just want to slow down a little bit? Like, do you want to go to the sauna next week? Like, let's do something for you because, you can see it a mile away. You can absolutely see. At least I can now with hindsight. So, I definitely want to support those around me to feel comfortable and still feel like they're making progress by taking a bit of a step back.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the potty. It's been an amazing chat.
Loved it.
And I feel like that's a wrap.
Thanks, Ab.
No worries.